says they started, but they didn't start, or what? That's the way it always happens. Of course, then it's going to actually kick in, and I'm going to get the YouTube commercial that's going to be like blaring in my ears.
I'm going to hold on. I'm going to fix my dog's chair. Hold on.
It's all right, Cubbie. Everybody just saw your wonderful. Everybody just saw your wonderful blanket that you had there too. It's all good. At least they didn't see like underwear. I think that was probably the good thing, right? I'm glad you covered up.
I'm wearing pants. Well, no, I'm wearing pants tonight. Can't say I always do, but I'm just kidding.
Listen, it's zooming from here up. It's party from here down. Now, welcome everybody. It is Monday night. It is a wonderful Monday night. Thank you very much for joining us. As you can tell, it's Cubbie. It's myself. We kicked John out of here for the night. We said go. We said get out.
We don't need
Mikey. Mike says he took a screenshot. I'm a little scared what he might do with the screenshot.
Me too.
Just saying. Oh my goodness. But we've got a couple different things we're going to be talking about tonight, and the main goal of what we're going to end up talking about is making things easy. Right. Not, I presented the idea to John, and I said, I had this thought, I had this idea. I said, what do you think? And Cubbie was busy, and we'll talk about what you were doing last week in a second here. But I said, taking the easy way out. I don't want us to ever think we're just taking the easy way out, but I really do think there's something that's important to the idea of planning in such a way, or setting things up in such a way that you're working smarter, not harder. And a lot of what we do tonight is really going to be focused on that kind of concept, right? What are the things that you do to make it easier on yourself and your couples and your clients and that kind of thing? What do you do to make it easier? So that's going to be our end goal. But before we get to that, last week you were not with us, Cubbie. It was just John and I. I feel like nobody wants to do the three thing anymore. It's just John or I. Now it's Cubbie or I. Next week it'll probably just no, in 2 weeks, it'll just be you and John. So, that's the way it is.
So is our throuple breaking up? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll be back together for next week. We'll get the band back together. But no. Awesome. So last week, what were you doing?
So I went to Orlando for the special event show, special event / cater source down there. And years ago, when I used to exhibit there for Eternal Lighting and Bliss Lights, it was a very popular show pre-COVID. It was a lot of stuff that was trending. They have like national acts there that you can, corporate acts that you can bring in. So if you do like a lot of corporate clients, they have entertainment that way. Decor. So if you're like a bar mitzvah DJ or you're getting into decor as well, where to get your chairs, couches, all the fun stuff. But yeah, I went to Cater Source down in Orlando and the special event show, and I would have to say it was really disappointing.
So I can honestly say this is something that I mean, there's so many shows that are out there in different realms and stuff like that. I feel like this is one I've not really heard of before. Is this something that there would be a lot of DJs or more production companies?
Yeah, a little bit of both. It all depends on what you're doing, and what you're striving for. It was recently. I don't know how recent it was, but it got bought by an Italian based company. They bought Cater Source first, and then they bought the special event show, and they merged it. And I don't know. I got a press pass, so I wasn't able to attend any of the seminars. We as DJs are very, very spoiled within that, because their passes are like $1,300, $1,400. So but I did not see the speaker lineup. I know Alan Berg was there. I got to see Alan, got his new book. If you don't have it, it's amazing. I got it behind. Should have grabbed it. But it was good catching up with Alan. So he was there speaking. But it was just a show that in the past used to be really, really good. But it just has gone downhill, I think, since pro-COVID.
Well, maybe they'll rebound. Hopefully they'll rebound. You were telling me it was like you walked around the whole exhibit area like an hour and a half.
And I walked slowly. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that to me, like when I go to shows, I don't necessarily go for the exhibits. I'm sorry, all of you vendors out there. I go for the education side. But I think if I was to spend, that kind of cash for a ticket to go to an event, I would hope there would be something a little bit more oomph in that. So hopefully the seminars made up for it, I guess.
I think they did. Like I said, I didn't see anybody. I did see a couple DJs that were out there. Toad was out there. He lives in Daytona now, kind of goes between Daytona and Ohio. David Parks came down for an hour, I think, because I never did catch up with David Parks, but I saw him on the book face. He was there. And next thing you know, he was at Epcot. He was over at Walt Disney World. So again, the floor was super small. Probably same thing that Dave does. Dave, I know, gets into a lot of unique things. They go to IAPA and some of the offshoot shows that aren't really DJ related to find things for their market that might be new and unique. But he was down there. There's a guy by the name of Chris Williams, Music on Wheels. He's got the coolest cars. He's got a VW bus that you DJ out of. He chopped and a Hummer and a Jeep, and a guy's great. Does all the stuff for Universal Disney. He was there. It's great to catch up with him again. So yeah, I mean, I did see 3 DJs out there and a couple local, one local planner I went out to dinner with. But yeah, it was unique. It was interesting.
Okay.
What's nice about the show is that it jumps locales. So this year it was in Orlando. Next year it's in Austin. I think the year before it was in Las Vegas. So it jumps coast to coast, which I think is really cool and very unique. That maybe people on the East Coast, maybe people in the Midwest doesn't go to like Austin, Texas, or whatever where it is next year. They're just gonna wait till their time and go in Austin. So I think it's cool that they jump.
That could probably make a big impact too on just attendance, where I think we have our certain shows and location kind of does make a piece to that, but it also lends itself like, oh, it's always here, so this is the group I always go to, that one. So I could see that, especially if they're like, well, listen, I could spend this much to go to Florida, or I could wait a little bit and spend a little less because it's closer. I could see that.
Yeah, it's
All
interesting.
Right. So let's move on tonight. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this, and this is the idea that we're going to throw out tonight is talking about different parts of the evening and of the process, I should say, to make it so that again it's easier. If you've got a tip, I'm going to throw this out to everybody. If you've got a tip, where I'm watching the YouTube, so everybody who kind of follows stuff on Facebook, I'm not going to see any of those chats. Sorry, go over to YouTube. Be like 99% of the other part of the world. But check it out on Facebook. And if you see a tip in one of the areas we're talking about, please drop it in the chat. I want people taking notes tonight. I really think there's going to be a lot of great talk, not necessarily from us, but the ideas in the chat, I think, are going to be great and help fill this out. But let's start here. All right. So before we even get the event, right, they've got to reach out to us. Right. Unless you're just cold calling it, randomly dialing numbers. Hey, you getting married? Somehow you need to have them reach out to you. Is there anything that you do in your process? Is there a setup that you have to make it from that first contact to the consultation or the contract? Is there any process that you do in there to make it easier?
Yeah. And I say this like every show, and I don't really mean to, but DJ Event Planner, their scheduled emails are amazing, and they also got text messages. So hopefully you're using a platform. I personally use DJ Event Planner. I also used Eric Massengill's Automate Your DJ EP. Again, a phenomenal program that I implemented both together, and it runs like a sewing machine. Every email goes out. I've got emails that start at 12 months, like this is what you should be doing 12 months out, 11 months out, payment reminders. So yeah, DJ Event Planner and scheduled emails and scheduled text. Amazing. Like simple. So it makes my life so much easier. I don't have to, and then the follow-ups within DJ Event Planner, make sure I stay on top of those. Other than that, that's my easiest thing right there. Can't, as a multi-op, I could not live without it.
Yeah. I think any CRM, and of course, you and I both, we use DJ Event Planner, and hands down, I think it's got one of the best setups to go. It's got so much power in there to do those and utilizing those different systems. I think is key, right? And you need to have those follow-ups built in, right? So when your couples come in, they go into a, for lack of better terms, a sales funnel, right? A follow-up funnel that you can then use to where you don't have to really reinvent the wheel. Now, there's different schools of thought, I think, when it comes to that initial contact. I'm what I would consider more old school in that I don't have an automated email set up for my first contact. I know some that do. They have an email that like pre-populates everything, and basically the email comes in and their response goes out like 5 seconds later or an hour later or whatever it is. I like to be able to type it because I like to be able to have my voice be really personalized to that particular event. So I'm not making things easy on myself in that aspect. But I know some who do.
I concur with you on the initial, but when as soon as they submit an inquiry, I have an automatic email goes out, says, hey, thank you for reaching out to us. We'll get back with you in the next 24 hours. If you reach out over the weekend, it may be a little longer as we're working with our couples. And it just lets our brides know that, or the inquiry know that, oh, okay, that makes sense. That, I just didn't go in there blindly. But other than that, it is a personalized response type of thing. And I know there's some people that just send endless emails and not a personable. That's not me either. So the sales process is not so automated, but everything after is automated.
I think it also depends upon the type, as we're talking about some of these ideas, one of the things you do have to realize is, does this fit your brand? Does this fit who you are? And if you're a multi-op company, right, and you've got many DJs under you, or you've got a ton of inquiries coming in, you could spend, your entire work week just responding to those inquiries. So I understand those that have, the automated responses, or, it comes in and they click a button and now it goes into this funnel and they don't have to do with anything until the people are really more vested in wanting to move forward with you. It's just me. And I don't have that many, like I have a fair amount coming in, but I don't have something where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm taking an hour every day doing nothing but inquiry emails. No. And I'd rather have that extra piece. So keep in mind, anything that we suggest tonight, if it doesn't fit your brand, if if your brand is such a way that it's all about personalized details and you're not giving them personalized details, then you're contrary to your brand. So you mentioned the automated emails that you're using, though. Once they're your clients, right? What are you using to stay likable? You mentioned these emails that are going out. Without giving away your email, what are some of the things that you're throwing in to help them?
Oh my God, I will give away my email. I have no problem in helping anybody. So my automatic emails start at 12 months, and it says this is what you should be doing 10 months out, 12 months out, 11 months out, 10 months out. And there's stuff that I got off the wedding rather than not. Basically it says, 10 months out, you should be meeting with your officiant, you should be confirming your mother-in-law addresses, ordering your invitations or save the date cards. So it's kind of like those books that they get, but they never go back to the books once they buy them. They just buy them because they're all jacked up about being married. And they forget all about them. So they're just there as friendly reminders like that you should be doing. I've got a few articles in there. What's the perfect timeline, seating charts, a seating chart email that goes, hey, look, don't put me next to grandma and grandpa or 50 feet away from the stage. So I got some very educational emails that go in there. And I get a great response on those as well. Like, hey, those are really helpful. They think that you're engaged when you're just sending out an automatic email. So it's all in the writing and make sure that it looks as though you're super engaged. And you'll be surprised the amount of responses you get. You're like, hey, I'm so glad you enjoyed the email. Looking forward to meeting with you in 4 to 6 weeks prior to your wedding type thing.
Yeah. And if you're looking for some of those types of products out there, I would mention that there are, like, Cubbie wrote his and took those information from the Knot and Wedding Wire. I jumped in with Perfect Portals, and they had that program, so I was utilizing that and making good use of those. And kind of in the process of shifting gears a little bit, just to kind of tweak and refine some of that piece. But definitely want to encourage you to kind of get something there. As Cubbie said, I've had so many couples that have reached out like during the process. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I was just thinking about, oh my gosh, what do I need to do next? And you helped us out, even though it might not be something that is necessarily relevant, because I've even had some that have just been like, I don't really have to worry about that. And it's like, I know, it was just an idea of something that you might need to think about in case you don't.
Yeah.
Um, I'm okay with letting them know that this is just an email that got sent out. I recognize that they're not having a, 12 course caterer or whatever the heck it was, but good.
Mine are my payment reminders. They're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'll get it right out or something. And I'm like, I'd love to tell you that I'm on that ball, but I'm really not. It's just an automatic email that goes out. Cool. Mail it when you can. This week, I'll post it, send you a receipt type thing. But yeah, some of those instances I'm saying it's just an email that went out. Cool. I'm totally fine with whatever happens.
All right. So let's move on, right? So you've got the event planned. Is there anything that you're doing in your prep work, right? After you've met with the couple, you've got everything kind of put together. Is there anything that is in your prep work that you use to kind of speed it along?
So when I send the planning meeting, I resend the logins to the online planners because you don't know if they still kept that original email that had it and say this, preparation. And then we get to the meeting and I explained to them that when we get done, I'm going to email them a loose timeline. Please take your time. If I'm missing a song, a cake cutting song, or you just don't know what song, for the grand intro or something, you throw out some options and like, well, let me talk to, maybe the significant other didn't come or whatever. So, and then Sunday, I always tell them, look, Sunday before your reception, I need all this stuff. So I'm going to put it together, make sure it's still your vibe. Because I found out when my mom was ill, I never knew which way my week was going to happen. So I started prepping on my weekends on Sunday afternoon, getting stuff ready, making my playlists, making my scripts, making sure that all my notes are intact, double check with the bride, especially during COVID. I say, look over the bridal, the wedding party lineup. Has there been any changes? Because, and unfortunately, COVID's still a thing, and I've had some people drop out. But yes, Sunday before the reception, I'm getting all my details so that I can start prepping on that Sunday evening, Monday morning type thing. And that way I'm ready to go by Friday/Saturday, double weekend. And I tell them, like, I sometimes I do 2-3 weddings a weekend. So I really got to have my notes together. And they understand that and appreciate that. And you never know when life's going to take you if something was to happen, an accident or I saw a friend of mine today, he got in a car accident, and you just, stuff like that can happen anytime, and it can just take you away from your week.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I plan for the same reason. Like on Sunday, like I'm crossing my T's, I'm dotting my I's and that kind of thing. But mine was always because my Monday through Friday, because of the day job, is always so jammed. Between that and then the kids' schedules, like, I don't have time to sit there and start planning stuff or gathering the last minute details. So as soon as I get done with my meeting, within that first week, I try and make sure that my itineraries to them, that I have them look everything over. I take an old itinerary, I basically just change the names, right? So that's one of my speed up tricks, right? I don't like retype everything from scratch. Now that's created some problems because when they look it over, they're like, yeah, we're not missing Mrs. Jones anymore. I don't know who that person is. Oh, yeah, I forgot to change that one spot. But what ends up happening with those moments is it it allows me to just speed that up, get that done, put that to the side. And like I said, I try and do that in the first week. So that way it's sent off to them. It also gives me a spot that if there's something they don't know, I've got a big, like, bolded to be determined. Like, this is like a wake up call. You forgot to put something here. This is the father-daughter dance. Let me know what we're doing. And that's usually kind of helps that along, so that way week of, when I've done it like that, that week of just goes so much smoother, right? The ones that drive me nuts is when it's like Wednesday and I'm like, all right, we said we needed to have this. We met 2 months ago and you said, yep, I'm going to get it to you. And then I kept telling you we need it and we didn't. That's when it gets a little frustrating.
So I do that same thing. Sunday prior to their wedding. But then if I don't get anything by Monday, I'll text them. Go, hey, didn't know if you saw the email, but I'm really wanting to prep for your wedding. I feel 90% of success is preparation. And I want to be able to do the best job for you. And they're like, oh shit, that's on me. And it makes it easier. So, but we've all had those brides that are scatterbrained. So, but it's funny you should say that about your playlist because I'm a cut and paster too. And I'll forget about changing the venue or something. And like, oh, we're not getting married at Glen Oaks. We're getting married. You're like, oh shit. Okay. So through transparency. I just cut and paste these things and plug everything in. Once again, fully transparent with my couples. They chuckle, I chuckle, and apologize.
Yeah. And I also tell them, I'm like, that's why you're my proofreaders, and that's why we do this now and not the day of, because that could create a whole other problem. And most of them are pretty cool about it, because like, accidents happen. But again, accidents are much more forgivable on a few weeks before the event than it is the day of. Just from that standpoint, I like your idea of texting, because that made me think of something that is unfortunately just a product of our email systems, right? I think I have some email systems that are so afraid to let anything through that everything goes to spam. And then I've got another one which like lets everything through the door except for like an email that I want. So case in point, if what I'm saying to that is, first off, make sure you're checking your spam stuff to make sure your stuff isn't going there. But then second of all, if you're not getting a response, make sure you shoot him a text. I would even encourage maybe that text follow-up, like when that initial email goes out about the login, send them a text, like, or, make a note for yourself, or if you haven't scheduled the text, whatever, just to say, hey, just so you know, your your login details were sent out. Because I had a bride who reached out to me just last week. She sent me a screenshot, and we were friends through Facebook, and she sent me this message, and she goes, hey, she's like, do you have anything like this? Like it was a shot of like a planner that she found somewhere online. And I went, you mean like the planning portal that I gave you the login details to? Where did you send them? To your email the second you booked it? It immediately shot him over to you? You think I check my email?
Yeah.
I was hoping you did. She went like 10 minutes later, she gets back to me. She goes, oh, my anxiety was gone. She's like, my anxiety's completely gone right now. I feel great. I feel relaxed. She's like, you just made my night. And I said,
so going back to that, I don't do it on the planning one, but that's a really great idea. I do it on the sales one though, Dan. I'll send them. So anytime something that catches spam folders or spam people's eyes, if you use the same verbiage and or subject line on every email that you send out. So for example, if you're sending out a loose timeline for your May 13th wedding or whatever it may be, if you use that same subject line, it may get caught up in a spam folder. Same thing if you use the same subject line on your sales things. Mine is select entertainment, your day, your way, guaranteed. Yours both capitalized. And then put guaranteed. I'll text them right afterwards. Hey, it's Cubbie from Select Entertainment. I just sent you an email. If you don't happen to see it, please check your spam folder, your junk folder. Looking forward to hearing back from you. And then I put like a silly GIF in there, like Forrest Gump, honestly, on the boat waving like this. When Lieutenant, and it just kind of shows my personality. It's fun, it's loose, and they seem to get it. But I always send one after my first sales email that goes out to let them know that if it did get caught up in your spam folder, to check it, your junk or spam. And like I said, but it does, if you're not a texter, it does open that, maybe, I don't know, maybe you could not consider it. Some DJs are not texters, like just email me only,
Yeah.
And so you got to be versatile enough to be able to do that for them. But I always tell mine, anything important, like wedding related, email me, don't text me. But you can text me anytime, with questions, or maybe you saw this TikTok or Pinterest, and is it doable? I have no problem answering those type of questions. But if it's pertinent to your details of your wedding, email me.
Mm-hmm. I like to have that paper trail, and I like it in one spot. So I agree. That's why it's like, if you're going to change anything after things are locked out, it needs to be an email. So I have it. But I do like that idea with the text message. I've heard that message from quite a few different people at seminars. Like, I think a lot of times we immediately assume that we're being ghosted because we never heard a response. And yes, there is times where we're getting ghosted, but it's probably more often than not because you got spam filtered is what it was. So just kind of keep those things in mind, figure out a way to follow up. I personally, in my form that I have them submit, ask, is it okay to text you? Because I even have, like, I don't go to that route, like to text them all the details or whatever, because I just don't want to like retype or copy and paste it from someplace. I'd rather have my email that's mostly filled in go out that I add to. But like just that follow up to say, and know that they're okay with that, to say, hey, it's me, I just got back to you. When you get a chance, check it out, makes me feel a little bit better. And when I've done that, I don't always get the event, but I always get a response.
Yes.
And that's the key, right? You know, we can't win at every event, but we should hopefully get every response. And that's just a way to help promote that. It also helps if they put in the wrong email address in your form. I've had that happen once or twice. Because I'll text them and they're like, I didn't get it. And I'm like, is this your email? Oh no, I forgot a letter or whatever. So, okay, let's move on. We got a bunch of good stuff tonight. So, let's jump into setting up, right? So you get to your venue, you want to get set up as quick as possible because let's face it, the quicker you get set up, the more downtime you've got to kind of refresh yourself, to cool down, whatever might happen to be the case. Are there things that you do to help with that setup portion?
Being a creature of habit, I load my car the same way. I load my cart the same way when I carry stuff in. I kind of set up everything the same way every single time. I'll start with my base and then put my 2 stands in there and drop my top, controller on top. I have a Daddy Max, so I just routine, try not to change things up, but even if the venue throws you a loop and puts you somewhere, don't let that get you frustrated. Just stay in the zone, but just do everything the way you do it. That makes it streamlined, so that you can get done. But yeah, so I would think repetition and routine for me, it makes it easier. Just make sure load the cart the same way, cart everything.
So a couple things that I would suggest, and these might seem like obvious things to some people, but if you're transporting that DJ light or that piece of equipment around in the original box that you bought it in, it's not saving you time. Get a case for it in some form or fashion. One, it's going to be more protection, but and two, like taking it out and taking the styrofoam off of it or whatever you might have done to kind of make sure that's protected in that box. It's just adding time to it, not to mention the look of it when you do that, but it's adding time. So that's one thing. Cubbie hit on it, cart, right? Like I know some DJs who legitimately whatever they can carry in is what comes in each time that they come in. There's no cart in whatsoever. Rock and roller, I swear by it. I've had mine for years. It's taken a beating. It's still rolling without an issue. Those are things that are going to save you time. A couple other things that I do is, and this is something that I would encourage, if you're not wrapping your cables, like if you're not using the way to wrap your cables up so they're nice and they're straight and they're not like all twisted and bent and everything else, like you don't wrap it over your arm. That's contrary to what you may think. That's not the way you should do it. Check out the way that you're supposed to wrap all that stuff up. And I put a Velcro piece around it to keep it all nice and tidy. I would also agree that sometimes those things take a little bit more time on the cleanup end, but will save you time on the setup end. It just like the wrapping cables the right way, putting the Velcro on them, things of that nature. And then I went to the purpose of, I wanted to speed things up. And Cubbie, we talked about this last week, was my cart, or not my cart, but my rolling booth. I designed it to be a carrier for my audio, but also for my speakers. So it's not just my controller. It's not just the TV that's in and the audio components, but it's also carries my Evolve 50s on it. So when I roll out of my trailer,
Wow.
I roll right into the venue, get to the spot, pull the subs out from the bottom, pull out the tops from their, and I have to unzip them, right? But I have to pull that out. And then what's also nice is it also holds my cases. So my cases are all right there for the end of the night. I don't have to go back out to the car and get my cases or go to the venue's closet that they stuck them in. I've got them right there. So as soon as my goodbyes are done, I'm cleaning up. It's going in bags. It's going back in the cart. And as soon as I can get my trailer close enough, it's rolling right onto the trailer.
Wow.
So those are little things that I think are a great way to kind of speed up some of your setup time. I would go also a little bit ways. There's a little plug for Ben and NLFX Pro. They've got some hybrid cables, right? So it's again another idea of kind of speeding things up. You've got your power and your audio being all together. So when you're laying one cord, you're really laying two. That's another thing that can kind of help speed things along. And I'm going to also make a plug for patch panels, right? I love patch panels. When I found out the idea of, wait a minute, all I have to do is plug it here. I don't have to run it in through and do this funky stuff with my hand. Patch panels. They're going to be a night and day difference for you. And it's funny because I watched a video. It may have even been Ben's last week. The topic of patch panels came up, and they, somebody. I guess the question was, people often want to know what do most people put in them, and or what's the usual way for setting them up, and they're custom for a reason. So you got to do what's going to work for you. Like, what components do you have going in? What components do you have coming out? And then, having that setup is really going to make it, kind of smooth for you within that. Oh, I love John's idea. So John Colley posted in the chat. I have 3 checklists on the fridge to make sure no gear or cable is forgotten with his different setups. Yeah, that is going to be key. And you could make a dry erase one, right? You do it on paper, you have it laminated, and then it becomes a dry erase one that you can go along and keep track of. That is key, because I can't tell you how many times my wife has driven at least halfway to the event to meet me, so that way I'm not driving all the way home and all the way back with certain stuff. The one time it was my suit. That was really interesting. So every time we go out and it's a far distance, she's like, "You better have everything, because I'm not driving to." Yes, honey.
Mine too. Because the week sometimes, like I said, you just never know what's going to go on, and you're like, oh, and then you're trying to load out. So yeah, God bless our wives or significant others. They mine's build me out. Oh my God, constantly.
Well, there's certain things like that I'm not loading into the vehicle, right? Like my trailer and stuff can be loaded to a degree ahead of time, or at least out the day before or whatever. But like, I'm not throwing my suit in there.
Right.
I'm not. I don't like to keep battery stuff in there, so my mics don't go in. My mics will actually go in my car, but like, I don't put them in beforehand because I don't want them to be in during that time. So it's like little things like that are kind of ridiculous, but yeah. So the easy to forget stuff. So okay, you're set up. You're ready to go. Ceremony. Now you shared with something before we went on that this isn't necessarily something to make it go easier. Oh, maybe it is. What are some of the things that you do in your ceremony that makes the day easier?
So in my consultation, or even in my sales pitch, I tell the bride that I can be your wedding planner. I just can't pick out your flowers and your colors. But as far as execution of what's going to happen, it will be flawless. So in my consultation, when I meet with my bride, I go over, I just don't get ceremony song. I don't get, I can't get all that. But that's not the thing. I get who the groom is going to walk down first, second, third, because there's a lot of venues that are like a DIY venue. Maybe the pastor's not involved. They don't have a wedding planner. If you can be that resource to that bride to make her day even more calm, you will get referrals like none other. And then you're there the day of going, okay, grandma, you go first, and okay, this grandma, you go second with grandpa. Here's what's going to happen. Dan's going to walk you down. He's going to give you a short hug. He's going to walk back fast. Grandma, you go on his arm. Grandpa, you go 2 steps behind. Be the resource for that couple. And the referrals will roll in because people see you doing that, and wedding party sees you doing that. And nobody else is getting that, like who they're going to, because they don't know. This is their first time getting married, more than likely. So, and then you do the wedding party lineup. And then I'm a paper guy. I know prior to this, we were talking about iPad paper. I'm a paper guy. I print out 3 pieces of paper, one for the venue, one for the photographer, one for me. So everybody has the same sheet for me. We're all on the same page. I say, look, this is a batting lineup for today. I'll never do anything without, consulting you. But I always want to say, just be the resource. Be that bride's calming blanket, because nobody else is there for her. Photographer's not going to do it. Venue sometimes doesn't do it. I've seen one venue, they're like, okay, you. And I'm like, wow, that's what I started. Could you imagine being a bride going to rehearsal and not knowing who's going to walk down the aisle first, second, third? So that's what I do.
I think that's key. Just being that resource, because that's going to make things go smoother all the way around, right? You might not have saved any time, but it definitely makes things easier in that process, because it's the more relaxed they are, the better that's going to be. And like you said, being that resource. I'm a paper guy too. I went the iPad route one time trying to do it. I found that it was more complex if I had to change things. It was perfect if everything was the way it was supposed to be. If I didn't have to make any changes, it was awesome. If I had to make changes, I could write and draw my arrows wherever I needed to go faster than what I could do. And somebody like, well, don't just get a pen and you can do it on the iPad pen. You're right, but I didn't do that at the time. So I'm still with pens or paper. But I'm like you though. I hand it out to photographer, videographer, the venue, the caterer. I even put an extra piece that's a really condensed version of the timeline on the head table
Oh,
at reception. So that way it's right there between the two of them. And I try and hide it so that that way they remember what's coming next, even if they don't they don't have to have that memory. They can just tell. So, for ceremonies, I like, and I've talked about this a couple different times. I'm a big proponent for wireless speakers. I like the battery powered. I went and I bit the bullet and I bought in-ear monitor, type systems so that so my speakers are at the front facing the crowd on the edges. And I've got the little belt packs sticking on top, plugged into the speaker. And then I can be wherever makes sense for me. I realize I spent more money on it than maybe I really wanted to, or would have liked to when it was all said and done. But I have such control over what I need that there's very few venues that throw me for a loop now because of, oh, well, you got to be over here because that's where the power is. Even my main rig is battery powered if I need it to be. So I still remember this one venue. I got not a referral. I got on their preferred list before I even started the ceremony, because I got there and I was setting up and he's like, oh, you can be up here on the porch. That's where the power is. And I said, can I be down here in the back of the congregation, kind of like outside or back of the congregation, back of the ceremony area, kind of just out of view? Yeah, but there's no power. You want to really run power all the way up there? I'm battery powered. What? Yeah, I'm battery powered. Okay. Yeah, go for it. And then when they saw everything, then the setup and the way it was, and they're like, what's your name? We have your card. Yes, you can. But it's the things that you do to make it easier. And to me, it meant more work to set it up, but once it's set up, and I don't mean set up the day of, I mean like putting it together and knowing what I wanted ahead of time. I'm in. Yeah, I know I'm carrying a little bit of equipment in, but it makes it easier on me in the whole process. I have somebody that wants to come up. I have a videographer that wants to get a feed. I've got to dedicate it out from what I'm doing. Like, I don't have to oh, we'll go plug into that speaker. No, right here's the audio system. Have at it. Enjoy yourself. It just makes it so much, in my point, smoother to have those kinds of things. And I'm going to steal your idea for my ceremony paperwork.
No, please. Like, again, anybody, if they had we did the officiating thing and a guy reached out and wanted my officiating paperwork. I said, man, no problem. Give me your email address. I'll send it to you. Please, anybody, that's why we're here, is to help one another raise the bar for the industry in every market that we're in. So I don't even care if you're in my market. I will help you in my market as well.
All right. I'm going to skip over cocktails and I'm going to jump to reception because cocktails, I'll make it quick. Like, I have some dedicated playlists that I've got created for cocktails. So cocktails is where I'm doing a lot of work to make sure that things are taken care of. So that's my deal. Receptions. Are there things that you're doing during the reception that make things easier?
I would almost have to say, Dan, go back to the cocktail hour. I'm prepping a lot of things. Finding the dad if he's doing a toast, finding grandma if she's doing a blessing, or finding an uncle doing a blessing. Hold the mic here, not down here. Kind of prepping stuff for the reception during cocktail, but I'm an auto mixer. I mean, I throw out a playlist. I've got some curated ones. And then I start prepping my evening with the people that might be handling the mic, or, oh, dad's like, oh yeah, or whatever. So just so it's like, I'm going to shake your hand and pass you the mic, so it doesn't look like a big cluster, like you're all fumbling, high-fiving up there. So like I try to set things during cocktail hour early in the reception, but not lay too much on too many people at one time going, okay, don't forget dad at 9 o'clock, you got to do this. He'll forget about that. But just keeping it short increments of what's going to happen in the next hour. So they'll remember it and retain it. But reception, no, just pray that they're dancers and you're spinning the right music and I do like virtual DJ, mixing in key. Now it's got that new software and finding compatible songs that mix well and into it and stuff. And I'm just prepping, just kind of my playlists and things.
So some of the things that you talked about during cocktails, I unfortunately don't get too much or too many places where I can get that kind of flexibility with that. And because what I run into a lot of times is cocktails might be in the same room, but the dining area is like over here. So everybody's milling about here. So for me to try and grab dad or for me to try and grab grandma, it becomes a bit of an obstacle to try and do so. So a lot of times what I do with my couples leading in is I find out what tables they're at. And then when I invite everybody to go to a table, it means I got to do this kind of quick. I kind of meet them at the table now that they're there, given those 2 cents that you talked about, and then I'm out quick to kind of finish setting things up for the introductions with the wedding party, because now that they're back from their pictures. So things like that I'm doing. And I would also encourage this. I got this idea. This is a Randy Bartlett idea back volume 1, probably, of when he was doing the videos, of reaching out to my key players about 2 songs before I'm going to do whatever. So, going up to the dad before the father daughter, before we even cut cake, because usually it's like cake, first dance, parent dance, right? So at least in my area. So before we do the cake, by the way, dad, just want to let you know, we're going to be doing cake. She's going to be dancing with her new husband, and then you're up. So don't go anywhere, right? Or if you do, keep in mind, these are the things you're missing and you need to get your butt back here. I've had a lot of them, or that's when they'll tell me like, hey, I got to go to the bathroom real quick. Do I have time? Make it quick. Because, again, the thing that I don't want to do is go on the microphone and say, hey, here we go with where did dad go? Like, what? Oh, dad's out to the car because he's smoking one. Whatever. Like, I want to know those things beforehand. And just trying to figure that out and getting that lined up makes it so much easier for me, because then it looks real smooth, right? It looks more transition. Nobody's missing a key event. And I'm not doing it over the microphone. I'm doing it behind the scenes. It does take work to do, but it makes it go so much easier. And it looks like everything was planned. By the way, dad, when she's getting ready, when she finishes that dance, she's going to know to look for you. So I want you to go out to her. And by the way, Bobby, when she's dancing with dad, why don't you go over and stand by mom? Put your arm around mom and just, kind of get ready. So that way, when it's time, you're next. You're just immediately coming out into the floor. There's not a big pause and transition. They want more dancing time? Here's a way to make it happen. Get smoother with those transitions, because that'll make it go quicker. Yeah, so that's one of the keys that I'm doing, like during the reception, to make it go smoother. And we could talk mixing styles and different things like that. Those are other things that make it definitely go easier. I'm a big proponent of priming the pump. Cocktails, dinner hour, have something a little bit more movie, right? A little bit more, that's going to nod their head, that's going to tap their fingers, they're going to get those feet going, to make them feel some of that music. Because then when they get up dancing, they've already kind of got that in them. It works so much better than Kenny G's favorite hits.
True. Oh my God. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Is anybody still doing that? Seriously? Like, do I need to come break your hard drive if that's the case?
I think they do in Minnesota.
No. John plays Huey Lewis greatest hits, and that's great. I got a drink now.
Side 1, side 2.
Here we go. By the way, we got to let you in anytime that band is mentioned, or some program that we're not allowed to mention by name. You got to take a drink.
So. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
There you go. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we're about out of time. So let's shift gears to kind of this final piece, which is Teardown. I already alluded to the one thing I do with the cases. Are there other things that you're doing to make that teardown process easier?
Gosh, no. And I know, yeah, not that I can think of off the top of my head, just making sure the cords that I always use are like near the top. I mean, like so, because I've got a bag full of spare cords, spare power cords, spare XLRs, just in case you're going a little longer or something. But I always have the same 5, 6 cords that are always right there near the top, and make sure that everything's in there and wrap nicely. Like you said, I know we're all dying to get out of there as fast as we can, but wrap them the way you're supposed to. There's a curve to them. You're supposed to, it's got a natural curve when you go to wrap each and every cord. Just find that natural curve and let it go. But yeah, just do it quickly, but do it right. To make sure that so that way in the middle of the week you're not rewrapping cords, trying getting ready for the week. You got more time to spend with your family.
Something else that I think would be a good idea for you to do with this to just kind of help things go smoother is get your big equipment boxed up first, like in the cases and covers or whatever you're doing on it. Because what I've often found, and it's kind of a fine line there, but I've had some venues talk to me about other companies because it feels like they take forever to get out. But what ends up, or they took forever to start tearing down. Well, they didn't. They were wrapping their cables first, right? And so what it felt like was they didn't start tearing down when really they did, but you just it didn't have that visual. So finding a way to, put the bags on or, put them in the cases, get that ready to go, and then kind of do some of that other cleanup makes it kind of get that other appearance of what's going on. I will personally say I have known within this past year at least 5 times that I was ready to walk out the door before the bus that was taking them from the venue left. And the reason why I know is because that bus was in my way. And I couldn't get my trailer because I had to wait for the bus to leave. So, it's one of those things I kind of pride myself on my teardown. It's pretty quick, but sometimes it's a little too quick or they're just too drunk. I don't know which it was, maybe both.
Do you talk to your bride afterwards?
Well, yes and no. So what I try and do is a lot of my couples, I really try and encourage them to do what I call the last kiss goodnight, that private last dance, right? So I do my thank yous and my goodbyes and everything to that while we're kicking everybody out. I'm talking with the couple and doing that moment then, because afterwards, everybody and their brother wants to talk to them. Everybody, they wanted to wish them well. Oh, thank you so much for having us. Da, da, da. I don't want to be waiting in line for that. And I don't want to be in the way of somebody else. So I try and handle my stuff before that. But for those of the couples that don't, yeah, I mean, I'm trying to grab them real quick here, give them a quick hug. Thank you so very much. Hey, are you great if I send you something to do reviews? Oh yeah, great. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to do that part because then they're on the lookout for the email from me. Maybe not consciously, but at some point, if that comes through, they knew it was coming. And they were, and in my email is, are you still cool if I send, if you do these emails for me, thank you so very much. Here's the links. Da, 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 da. It works so much easier in that viewpoint.
Yeah, with me, I'm like, hey, look, I get graded on my events. If it is something good, let me know. If it is something bad, let me know. I'm always working on grading. And then I'll let the review come in. And then once it comes in great, I'm like, hey, can you post this on the Google? Why are they not? And then I gotta pitch them in there. So yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I'm more brave than that. I give them the links right away. They have at it.
Yeah, well, you're golden. I'm not always golden.
I'm not always golden. I'm not always golden, but it's one of those things where I think the ones the ones where you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, those are the ones that get my evaluation email and not my request for review email. You can still, you give me those critiques, that's fine, I'll take it, whatever. And usually it's not bad. It's more in my head than it is anything else. But it's just one of those things where I'm just like, if we had a great time, I also want it to be as easy as possible for them with that review process, right? I even tell them, like, copy and paste it. I don't care if it's the same review in all 3 places. Like, if you want to do more than one, just have at it. And a lot of them do. A lot of them just copy and paste it. It works for me because I'm like, I don't care if it was in, Google and it was on the Knot and it was on Wedding Wire. I don't Yelp, but if I did Yelp, like, I don't care if it's the same for all of those. It makes it easier for them. And as a result, it makes it easier for me.
Yep.
So
yeah, I provide links as well, but I kind of talk to them, talk to mom and dad, and both moms and dads take their hand. And but I always tell my DJs, they'll never tell you to your face if you did something bad. They'll never tell you to the face. So just be ready.
Yeah. But in the same respect, can't you read it on their face? Like, if that's the case, can't you read it on their face? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, with that whole process, like, I don't know. I trust it. Plus, in the same respect, I don't want to necessarily hide. Right. If I was bad, I'd rather have them post it and I can respond to it than for it to grumble underneath the surface somewhere. Fortunately, I've never had to go that route. I had one that basically tried to blackmail me. That was an interesting situation. Grandma went down. Grandma had a little bit to drink. Grandma went down. They ended up calling EMT. Music stopped for like a half an hour. She wanted to go an extra hour. I said, great. Gave her the fee for charging it. She agreed to it. And then afterwards didn't want to pay it and said, if you make me pay this, I'm giving you a 1 star.
Wow.
I was like, you know what? Fine, whatever. I'm walking away from this because there was red flags leading up to that event. There was red flags leading up to the event. It was earlier on in my career, and I didn't know to kind of say no when I saw those red flags. That after that, I was just kind of like, okay, lesson learned here. Lesson learned. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yep.
So any last parting words, any other tips that you do? I know we skipped like we went, it felt like we talked about one section for a ton and also so any other pieces that you'd put in there?
No, not really. I think like I said, you shared a lot of great things. I always love working with you, and I learned a lot of great things tonight. So I can't think of anything that I do different. Just and when we get off this call, I will be, or this stream, I'll be like, oh shit, I should have said this, but yeah.
It's all good. It's all good. Trust me, it is perfectly fine. And keep in mind, I was jotting a bunch of notes myself. So you may think you don't have those golden nuggets, sir, but you do. You definitely do.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So on that note, coming up next, we got Hanging with Howie, DJNTV.com/chill. That is the address that you want to go. The first 20 minutes will be them doing their show, and then afterwards it's just hanging out. It's that after party type of piece, that after the seminar where you're talking about things and you just kind of hang out. Maybe you got some ideas that you want to drop for them. By all means, please go ahead and join them in that. Tomorrow night will be Ask Ben Stowe. No idea what they're going to talk about, but tomorrow night you're going to definitely want to make sure you check that out. That's tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and those other time zones, I just forget them. So have yourself a great one. Enjoy yourself. John should be back next week, so the three amigos will be here for you. Have yourself a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Yep.